No, in recent weeks, this Trump anti-Canada rhetoric, he's going to make us part of the states. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. I'm not going to give any credence to what he says, but there's been response to that in different ways. And a certain superstar Canadian comedian who now lives in the States channeled a certain superstar hockey player who played the majority of his career in the States. He never played with a Canadian team in relation to a comment that we all know in Canada. Like there's different, remember the Alamo in Texas, remember the Maine, comments like that. But in Canada, when you hear the term elbows up, it's mean prepare yourself because the guy against you is trying to hurt you and you're going to hurt them back. Now, the elbows up rallying cry, which was brought into focus when Mike Myers, Dr. Evil, Austin Powers, all the characters he played, did a elbows up reference at the end of a Saturday Night Live episode. Now, Gordie Howe, who was the originator of elbows up, his signature move inspired a different defined slogan amid U.S. threats, according to CBC article. When Canadian actor and comedian Mike Myers, clad in the Canada's Not For Sale t-shirt, twice mouted the words elbows up and pointed to his left elbow on Saturday Night Live recently, he was sending a none too subtle signal to his compatriots north of the border. Get ready for a fight. Facing punishing tariffs on Canadian exports and repeated jibes from fascist U.S. President Donald Trump about our country becoming their 51st state. Cold day in fucking hell, by the way. Canadians were understandably riled. Elbows up became the rallying cry they've been looking for. Weeks earlier, Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew, an Aboriginal reporter by trade, had warned Canada that it can't be a punching bag, that we have to get our elbows up in face of threatened tariffs. At protests across the country after the show, including one on Tuesday outside the U.S. Embassy in Ottawa, Canadians chanted the slogan and scrawled it across their placards. Hashtag elbows up appeared all over social media as about a call to arms and a warning to our increasingly bellicose neighbours that Canadians might be polite, but we're no pushovers. In Canada, we have two sayings: "I'm sorry" and "you're going to be sorry." In hockey-loving Canada, the phrase automatically evokes memories of one of the game's greatest players, Saskatchewan-born Gordie Howe, who before becoming Mr. Hockey had earned another nickname, Mr. Elbows. Unfeignedly humble, generous and gentlemanly off the ice, Howe would wield his elbows like weapons when battling for the puck. Now, ironically, he was brought out of retirement some 2 decades after he did for one shift for the Detroit Vipers minor league team, and ironically, his last movement on the ice with his elbows up when a player came towards him. According to Howe, if a guy slashed me, I'd grab his stick, pull him up alongside me, and elbow him in the head. Howe once said, describing his favorite method of retribution. Now, former Toronto Maple Leaf player Howie Meeker once described what it was like to be on the receiving end of one of Howe's infamous elbows. He runs me into the fence, and I turn around and I whack him across the shins, and he gives me a pushback in the shoulders, just misses my head, and I give him another crack. He turns with his elbow and catches me right in the mouth. I say, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble here." I got blood running down, and I stick my tongue up, and my tooth is gone. The referee stopped the game, and the players searched the rink for Meeker's tooth, but he never found it. Meeker said for years after, Howe would politely inquire about his dental health. He played hockey like a good Christian, and it is better to give than receive, joked Jay McSkimming, author of Gordie, a hockey legend. He was talking about meting out punishment on the ice, and that you have your elbows up in the corners because you never know who's coming to get you. While McSkimming doesn't believe Howe coined or even used the phrase elbows up, he has nevertheless become synonymous with it. McSkimming said Howe's father taught him to never take any shit from anybody, a lesson the young man took to heart, especially when it came to his opponents on the rink. He would just hit them so hard, and the elbows were an important weapon in his arsenal. He would just raise them up fast to clip someone in the chin, or in the gut, or whichever part of the anatomy was handy, McSkimming said. The phrase elbows up has grown out of that legend, I think. Now, it's such an enduring part of the Gordie Howe legend that a bronze statue standing outside Saskatoon's SaskTel Centre portrays the hometown hero whose left elbow held aloft as a fending off an invisible opponent. To this day, fans stop by just to touch it. Now, Howe's funeral in 2016. His son Murray told mourners that right up until his final days, his father would throw his elbows around for a laugh, as he did during recent visits to Detroit's old, venerable Joe Louis Arena. I went to the Joe in October and March so to get elbow the coaching staff and the trainers and several players like Dylan Larkin and Pavel Datsyuk and Jimmy Howard, Murray Howe recalled. Mick Skimmings points out that Gordie Howe, who was made the officer of the Order of Canada in 1971 during his first retirement, spent his pro hockey career playing in the States where his children were born. One son, Mark, would even go on to play for Team USA. Gordie still thought of himself as a Canadian, Mick Skimmings said, noting Howe would frequently travel back to Saskatoon, where he also always received a hero's welcome. There was his people and he loved them. He didn't care that he played in the States. Now, Mr. Hockey, a.k.a. Mr. Elbows, is about to receive another tribute. The Gordie Howe International Bridge, due to open later this year, will link Detroit, where Howe spent most of his career, and Windsor, where Howe's mother settled in 1912 after arriving in Canada from Germany. It will also stand as a symbol of the history of cross-border cooperation that has until recently tied Canada to the U.S. Mick Skimming believes Howe would regret the recent souring of their friendly relationship. I think Gordie would be very saddened by it because he really believed that, off the ice, people should get along and treat each other decently. I think he would find Trump's behavior and conduct abominable. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's put a little bit of history for you with Gordie Howe. He legitimized the WHA. He came out of retirement to play for the Houston Aeros, who won the title twice. Then he legitimized the New England Whalers, getting back into the NHL. The Aeros were long gone. Now, Gordie Howe played in Detroit for a number of years, and he put really Detroit hockey in the map. That dynasty of the 1950s, where only the Montreal Canadiens could beat them. And I talked to Jean Beliveau about that. He said Gordie Howe was the most dangerous player on the ice. Now, the term power forward. And the man was so in shape. If you want to go on Google and put in Gordie Howe shirt off, my God, the guy had such a physical strength. Now, ironically, his last game in the Montreal Forum, in the playoffs, he scored a backhanded goal, I think, from half ice. Played in the All-Star game in 1980. I think Regin Cloutier, one of the Quebec Nordiques, assisted on Cloutier's goal. A legend of hockey. Now, Mike Myers got a lot of criticism. Oh, you live in the States, now you're doing this. Ladies and gentlemen, being Canadian has nothing to do with living in the States or otherwise. You're born Canadian. If you subscribe to the Just Society and how we're a peaceful freedom of people, we don't need no boundaries. There's people in the States, okay, that will always be part of the States, whether a Democrat or Republican or whatever, a third party. But when you're born Canadian, Canadian does not whine and complain. We'll see. Let's see what happens, okay? Donald Trump and all these minions of evil, right? We bet the Russians in 72. We would have bet them in 74 because he cheated. We won the Canada Cup in 76. Our Olympic teams, our 4x100 team, Noah Lyles, who? Michael Johnson, that fucking cunt face, maybe one of the original black Trump tards. We kicked his ass in 96. We kicked his ass in 97. Bob Costas, everybody say we're not a real country. You basically get a drunk Canadian at a bar in Arizona, and somebody tapping the shoulder, you're not a real country. He said, really? Here, take this. A Canadian would rather blow his fucking brains out, including me, to be ever associated or be part of the States. Being Canadian, the history of the world, for eons and eons, there's only 42 million Canadians right now. We'd rather blow our fucking brains out. We won't kill an American. If an American would put a gun to her head and say, I'll blow your brains out unless you say you're American, shoot away. Why would anybody in Canada want to be an American? Think about that for a second. Look in the fucking mirror. When our kids go to school here, are they afraid of being shot? Is any country in the world, Canada is Satan, we're not going to be invaded. We liberated the Netherlands, we liberated Belgium, we liberated Italy, we liberated France, we stopped England from being taken over by Hitler, we survived Hong Kong, we survived Dieppe, we survived Vimy, we survived Passchendaele, we survived the mountains of North Korea. When Gordie Howe and Mike Myers say elbows up, look up why there's a Geneva Convention. You ever heard of the Devil's Brigade? The Canadian soldiers were terrorists. You fucked us over first, you're going to get it worse. When we used to jump into trenches in 1917 and 18 and kill Germans like pigs in a slaughterhouse, no wonder they put out the Geneva Convention. The Germans were scared of us. Don't wake us up. we're going to say, I'm sorry about what I'm going to do, but you're going to be sorry. And hockey is like that. Watch Game 8 between the Russians and the Canadians in 72 when J.P. Parise, a Frenchman from Quebec with the Minnesota North Stars, threatened to disembowel the referee for giving him a rotten 10-minute penalty. He was going to fucking kill him. Okay? It is what it is. So Mike Myers, like I said, I'm not a fan of him personally, but I knew something was going to happen. But Canada's not for sale, and we say that literally, we're not for sale. We don't sell out. If someone came to me tomorrow, if Elon Musk said, I'll give you $10 million to be American, I said, you got to fucking bury that money or give me a lighter, I'll burn that cash in front of you. No fucking way a real Canadian ever wants to be American. You be you, brothers. And if anybody on this channel hasn't caught on, if you're a Trump supporter on this channel, go. Fuck off. I will find a way to block you, and I will report you. I don't want any Trump followers here. That's a cult, okay? Has nothing to do with Joe Biden. I don't support anything in the States. It's a two-party system. Canada, we have a 37-party system, a place where there's 4 communist parties. Okay? There's 4. Marxist-Leninist Party, Communist Party of Canada, and, think of that for a second. By the way, if that crackpot Marco Rubio comes back across the border, I guess members of the Montreal Mafia are looking for him. Just saying. He better not show back up. His elbows might be up. He's going to be in the grave with the elbows the only way to find him. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the story of Elbows Up, Mike Myers, and my latest rant. Ladies and gentlemen, as we like to say, when Raul Gilbert bet up that Russia in 78, keep your stick on the ice. And Wayne Cashman can tell you that because he was almost choked out by the Swedes. Swallowing that. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't want to fight the Americans. We just want you to leave us alone. Fuck off. Good luck to you, but go fuck yourself. Have a good one. Bye.